Good morning, family of fast. Matt Mosman, the Chief Endurance Officer over at EndurElite. Welcome to the first episode of Ask the Scientist, where I'll take one question a week from one of the members of the EndurElite family of fast and provide you with the research-backed answer, because we don't do none of that bro science here at EndurElite. So the question I got today was from Tom T, and I quote, "Matt, why do I feel like 2 pounds of crap in a 1 pound bag after I fly to a race?" And really what it comes down to is nutrition, hydration, circadian rhythms, jet lag, all these other things. So today what we're going to answer or talk about is, what the possible reasons may be why you feel like crap after you fly to a race, and then actually what you can do about these things so it doesn't happen. And as always, we are going to look at the research, and this time it is by an individual by the name of Whitney Leatherwood. Doesn't that sound like a really smart name? And what Whitney did is she took a collection of a whole bunch of research papers on airline travel and athletic performance and kind of singled out all these variables that could affect performance and what you can do about it to help prevent it or to have a good race. And again, and I have my list here, it comes down to nutrition, hydration, jet lag, altitude, and circadian rhythms, according to this Whitney Leatherwood. Now, let's talk about nutrition first. Nutrition is so hard when you travel. Between food you get at the airport, those meals you get on the airlines, except for those little Maple Crisp waffle things, man, I could run a train on those things all day long. Num, 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 num. Those are really good. Back on point. So basically, eating good while traveling is really hard. Airport food usually sucks. Food on the plane usually sucks unless you want to spend like $80 on a can of Pringles, some gummy worms, and a piece of chewing gum. So what the heck do you do? Well, if you're at the airport, you make the best choices you can. When you're on the plane, it would be nice to pack your own food, but you really can't do that, so you just go with the available options. So the easiest thing to do for nutrition-wise before you basically go on your flight to your races, eat good beforehand, and then when you get to your final destination, ideally you get a place where you can cook your own food that you're used to, so you don't have to rely on like Chili's and eating baby back ribs and end up with a major gut bomb. So just sticking to the foods you usually eat. If it's not possible to cook your own food with there, you just do the best that you can. Ideally, the day before the race or race day, you again want high carbohydrates meal. You don't want to go with anything strange that's going to give you, a gut bomb or cause stomach distress. So that's the nutrition part. Hydration, and the one thing we're going to look at here is basically getting dehydrated while you're flying. When you're in the airplane flying high in the sky, humidity in the plane is pretty decreased. Usually it's about 30% in the air. When you get in the airplane, it's about 20%, so it's a little more dry. So you want to drink water. Now, I'm not a fan of just chugging water just to chug water, but if you have about 16 ounces of some kind of fluid about every 2 to 3 hours, you'll stay in a hydrated state and your eyeballs won't be floating and you won't have to run back to that tiny little restroom and take a piss later on. And then you'll be hydrated when you get off the plane, and you continue this hydration strategy up until your race. So that's hydration. Now, let's talk about jet lag. What's jet lag? Well, it kind of has to do with your circadian rhythm, but with jet lag, you might feel lethargic, tired, confused, fuzzy-headed, because you're basically throwing your body for a loop, especially if you're going to a different time zone. So with jet lag, the only solid evidence I have seen as far as preventing jet lag, and it's actually pretty interesting, is one research study suggests fasting for 16 hours before you get on your plane, which I would be a freaking hungry bear and really hangry if that happened to me. But if it meant preventing jet lag, I would probably do it. I'm going to touch some more on this in a second when I talk about circadian rhythms, but for jet lag, that seems to be the most useful strategy. Fast for about 16 hours beforehand, and that may help. Let's talk about altitude. So when you're up in an airplane, you're at like a cruising altitude of like 32,000 feet, which is really high up. And we all know that going to a basically higher altitude the day right before the race maybe isn't the best thing, but the research really isn't solid here. Some people will suggest that when you fly high in an airplane that it could affect performance the next day, but I don't know if I'm really sold on this. But I mean, ideally, if you're traveling to a race that's say on a Saturday, in an ideal situation, you would want to arrive like 2 to 3 days early to kind of, well, address all these things and make all these things better as far as the jet lag, the altitude, the nutrition, hydration. But sometimes that just isn't practical because we all have 9-to-5 jobs, kids that always need their butt wiped, and all these other chores around the house. But if you can do it, that's a solid piece of advice right there. Get to your destination 2 to 3 days before your race so your body can kind of adjust. Now, the last point we're going to talk about, and this is probably the big one that will usually screw up your race the most, and this is circadian rhythms. And these things basically dictate when you eat, when you sleep, when you poop. It's like your biological clock. So if you're flying from West Coast to East Coast or vice versa and you're in a different time zone, it's throwing your body for a loop. You know, your body doesn't know when to sleep because of the light. It doesn't know when to eat because it's just all messed up with circadian rhythms. So what are you gonna do so your circadian rhythms don't get too out of whack? Well, one practical suggestion is 2 weeks before the race, kind of get on that other time zone schedule, meaning, you know, go to bed 2 hours earlier, 2 hours later to get your body adjusted. But again, that's really not practical because you have stuff to do. Another effective strategy, and this one is probably more practical, is kind of control light exposure, exposure to natural light. So if it's like 6 o'clock at night, it's a couple hours before bedtime, and you know you're trying to link up with your time zone, kind of pull the shades, get it dark, get your body used to it. Again, not the most practical suggestion, but it's something. Now, probably my favorite thing to do is if you need to kind of reset your circadian rhythms for this different time zone, is to take the supplement melatonin, about 3 to 5 milligrams, right when you want to go to bed according to the time zone you'll be racing in. And I would do this about a week before you go to your race, and then your body will kind of get naturally adjusted to it, and when you get to the race day, you shouldn't need the melatonin, because you'll be good to go, your body be adjusted, and yeah. So that's about it on how you can prevent yourself from feeling like total ass when you fly to your next race or event, or just in general, if you go anywhere. These are things you can do so you'll race better or feel better, etc. So that concludes Episode 1 of Ask the Scientist. If you have a question that you want me to answer, comment below and I will address them, answer them, give you the research-backed answer on them, and give you lots of knowledge. So, that is all I have today, EndurElite Family of Fast. If you want other videos like this on endurance training, nutrition, supplementation, random musings, and everything in between, subscribe to the EndurElite YouTube channel or head on over to the EndurElite blog at www.endurelite.com. Get social with us on Instagram and our super cool EndurElite Family of Fast Facebook page. And until next time, my endurance friends, stay fueled, stay focused, stay fast, and most importantly, stay informed.